Welcome back to the home studio. Welcome to episode 60, not 16, 60, 60 of the Stevie Richards Show. This is WCW. We continue our coverage of my time, as James puts it, the 4 months of fun in WCW. This is the official part 2 in our series covering my experience in World Championship Wrestling. Hopefully this part 2 is better than Joker 2. You be the judge. Comment below before we get to that. James Romero, my co-host, drinking a non-alcoholic beer.
Yes, because we've run out of those like weird like caffeine and sugar-free Coca-Colas, which are really nice. So I have to have something with a bit of fizz. You know, if I'm going to have lunch, I can't just have water. It's got to have a bit of taste to it.
You say water. I say water. Mine has 2 O's and an H, people say, after T or before T.
No, the water in me water. Sorry, that's for the English people. Of a certain age, they'll remember that advert. Right, so we'll do the intro very quickly, and then we're going to get into it, because, goodness me, we've got a lot. I think there is going to be a part 3, because I want to cover you leaving WCW, which I know we've sort of done before in a previous episode, but also the brief ECW run of a week or two that basically went. And
now
then
you're using eras and runs in the wrong context with those two. And I just like...
Brief appearances.
Yes, special attraction.
Special attraction. So, YouTube, fitness, Stevie Richards Fitness. What are you talking about today? You posted a video a day ago as we're recording this.
Yeah, I was talking about isometrics, which literally my road to recovery seems to restart all the time. And the foundation to everything when you're talking, especially about resistance training, is isometrics. Simply put, spoiler, squeezing your muscles and holding that tension, holding that squeeze for a period of time. Time under tension, that's isometrics. Dynamic reps are the actual movement of reps. You can combine those. So I talked about how I'm utilizing that. And it really is kind of strange, like, especially with the kind of nerd and geek I am, James, actually both of us include Chris with that. All these cameras, the Sony A7 IV, the FX30, PTZ cameras, Rodecaster Pro 2, Rodecaster Video, Ecamm Live. And my best performing videos is holding an Osmo Pocket 3 and walking throughout a neighborhood and just talking and taking out some of the ums and the ahs. But people, you know, it's just that organic nature. And obviously those will become overproduced after a certain amount of time. People know me by now, but it is really refreshing to know that something I tried, because this game of content creation with all of us is, you know, trial and error, successes and failures, pivots. And it's really nice to see that something like that is appreciated and people interact with those videos.
And speaking of successes as well, the Stevie Richards cameo is going from strength to strength, as it seems to continually do, as I push it on your behalf every single week.
I have 3 of them this morning. Yeah, 3 to go. Got to do them after the show.
How many are you doing a week now? And triple the number, for goodness sake.
Dude, some people would say way too many. But I'm getting a few a week. It's a blessing, man. I'm so grateful. The thing that I get most importantly, and it reminds us how we try to keep this family friendly, there was a person named Stuart who actually, they have an album coming out in September. I'm going to listen to their songs and we'll talk about it maybe in September. His daughter, Emma, who's 14 years old, listens and watches the show with him. And I think we get those messages, emails, and comments from people that listen and watch with their kids, and that's pretty cool that we can put a presentation together like that.
Yeah, right. Stevie's been very, very self-deprecating when he says a few a week, because I know for a fact he's getting numerous a day. So don't let him fool you. He's one of the most popular people on Cameo. That's why he's on the top 100. And the reason he's in the top 100 personalities on Cameo every single week is because he gives you everything for your money and more. You won't just get a 10-second howdy doody or whatever it was, you know, happy bris or whatever it might be. It's, you know, you get a full video of whether it's questions or something to pick you up if you're feeling low, whatever it might be. Stevie gives you your money's worth and more. I do my best to tell him to up the money every single week, and he doesn't, so catch him while the price is more than reasonable, overly reasonable in my opinion.
Can I stop you real quick one second? Yes. Another funny story about the Cameo, and it lends into my OCD. I recorded, I think it was for Stuart, the guy that I just talked about with his daughter Emma. I recorded the Cameo. It was probably 4 to 5 minutes long, talking about different stuff. and based on his questions. And his daughter Emma loves the Tony Garea impressions. By the way, people want our Garea rating to come back. We have a review show coming soon. I think we're bringing the Garias back, but I recorded it and forgot I unplugged the Rodecaster Pro 2 with the pod mic. It was coming off of the camera audio. I had mistakenly set the Cameo. Immediately realizing my mistake, I re-recorded the Cameo, and then we transferred that I can't stand it. I asked them to delete the previous one because I did not want bad audio quality to exist in my universe.
Hey, in the Patreon, which I'm going to talk about the Patreon now, we watched 4 matches from WCW, Stevie Richards' glittering WCW career, as he would say, I'm sure. I always called it 4 fabulous months with the World Championship Wrestling. And
it's like the Braden Walker best of DVD.
Yes, about a 3-disc set. It was. 2 matches with Diamond Dallas Page, as well as the Randy Savage watch along, and also the Damien 666. I think it's just Damien in that.
The Damien
match where
CPR,
it's not really a match.
we should call it.
Yeah, the Damien CPR, yeah, and all the stories behind it, including just how hard Raven hits Stevie, which seemed to be every single match we watched. And also, because I mentioned audio quality, one of the YouTube videos we watched and then commented on, the last one, the audio only comes out of the right ear. So, I mean, your right ear's in for a treat for that one. But the rest of them, the audio's good. That being said, Stevie may go back and edit all the audio so that the audio's playing mono both ears.
May?
Okay, you will.
May.
I understand. And one more thing that we don't plug. We're not plugged for a while, and there's a reason for that, but it's out. It's good. It's ready to roll. Pro Wrestling Tees. Stevie Richards is on Pro Wrestling Tees. Plenty of t-shirts, including the official Stevie Richards Show logo on the t-shirt and the Blue World Order BWO t-shirt, among others as well. Over to you, Stevie. Are we getting more stuff? Are we going to get a figure? Maybe.
We're looking to do that. Ryan was very gracious. Want to thank Vinny from Pro Wrestling Tees, who was getting the design right, and we had to get a higher resolution image. Chris was able to provide that for the new logo that we have up there. We have the Stevie Richards Show shirt available in black and royal blue. I also asked other colors. Some people want hot pink, so I might add that onto there, or some other colors. We can add as many different colors to the design as we want. But I am looking, they do have some wrestling buddy type things or micro brawlers. Looking to do that. That's a different type of pre-order thing. We discussed it in detail on Patreon. But if you want that, please comment below. You can also comment on the post for Pro Wrestling Tees. Let me know what color you'd like added to that. But we also have the PG Era I Win t-shirt, the Right to Censor, with the bug eyes and everything. And we also have an alternative BWO shirt with the 3 of us in the box saying we're taking over. It's kind of an alternative design. So please check that out. ProWrestlingTees.com/Stevie Richards, and other merchandise, when it becomes available, will be up on that page.
Absolutely. And there's going to be more designs. I think the Stevie Night Heat t-shirt is going to be there. I need to provide the PNGs for all that kind of thing. We did briefly attempt merchandise beforehand. We realized quite quickly that the people that we used, or the company that we used, were not worth dealing with, quite frankly, and I've still not got the payout for it. So we've scrapped those, and that's why I've gone with Pro Wrestling Tees, because you know you're going to get your stuff from there. So we're going to move straight on to WCW Part 2, and this is something that a bit of B-roll ended up in last week's episode. So, you know, when we said, Chris, put the B-roll in, he did. And there was a bit where you were behind Raven. Raven was talking to, I think, Mean Gene, and doing his thing, and, you know, not answering a question that was asked of him, and talking in riddles, and, you know, quote the Raven evermore. But you're behind him. And at one point, you do this. Mm-hmm. You do the arms folded thing. More than once, in fact, right into the camera, so the whole wrestling world would see. And it turns out that one member of the wrestling community, a professional wrestler, saw that and wasn't best happy with it. And that one was Taz. And this comes from Old Grey Beardo, because once again, we solicit questions for the Stevie Richards Show for the monthly. We're going to do it monthly now, fan Q&As. And this one we say from a previous one. I remember seeing a shoot interview with Taz way back when, and he told a story about he and Stevie having an issue after Stevie allegedly did Taz's cross arms pose during a WCW appearance. Taz did go on to say that he felt like he and Stevie squashed the issue, but I was wondering if Stevie had any memory of doing this and what Taz had to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have memory of doing it because once it did that, I was the one that pointed it out to you. Look at me cross my arms in the background and everything. You know, that's a regret. That's like one of those kind of petty, kind of like I'm trying to pop my friends in wrestling, but also obviously, you know, the petty part of that is wanting Taz to see it. And of course, Taz wasn't happy with me well before I crossed my arms in WCW, in some ways deservedly so. Now, back then, Taz really did take his craft, his brand, his character, and pro wrestling very seriously. Now, I took trying to have the best match I can and other things in the ring seriously, but it could be pretty much accused, you know, you can accuse me, rightfully so, of not taking a lot of other things seriously. My fitness, my health, my look. I was just a young guy that happened to not retain the calories or the fat or the buffets back in the day. I had a pretty good metabolism, but I didn't have a strict training regimen, and I wasn't disciplined with that, and willpower and things that should have been instilled in me. Taz, in his own way, was trying to maybe instill some more discipline in me, where he'd always say, get bigger, brother, stuff like that, you know? But at the same time, Taz also took things so seriously that I don't think he enjoyed that time during his career. Me, I didn't enjoy certain things either, but also being the clueless putz, I also was trying to have a good time. So in retrospect, looking back at it, and not so much now, but even after Taz and I had our discussions and became friendlier, I regretted that because it was petty, it wasn't right. And that was an era when, like I said with Kevin Nash, the NWO and the BWO parody, people were very protective of their intellectual property, whether it be a catchphrase, what they would say, color schemes like orange and black, fold in the arms, poses that are marketable poses for action figures, for 8x10s, for video games. So, you know, I got that after the fact. Nobody explained that to me. I had to kind of look at it years and years later and go, yeah, that's kind of dumb. But I was doing it as a 24, 25-year-old kid, just trying to pop the boys that I'm friendly with. And yeah, maybe a little bit petty to Taz. Yes, we absolutely, positively, that and a million other things squashed any sort of heat, squashed any sort of animosity. As a matter of fact, I talked about it before. I'm not sure if it was on an interview or a past episode or both. When I'm walking into WWE at the time, Taz as a commentator, I believe, on SmackDown, I walk by his rental car and I see the light of like a mobile gaming device, a PS Vita or a PSP, I'm not quite sure. Taz is playing Madden in the rental car, like literally doing what I do. I used to escape to the Skybox with my Dreamcast, my original Xbox, and play video games alone or with a couple people that would kind of keep it a secret. So I was like, oh my God, we're not that much different. And I remember us having that conversation. He's like, I see when you go up to the Skybox and you're playing video games. And I'm like, time for me to go out to the rental car and play my video games. So that's been squashed. As a matter of fact, speaking of heat, there's a while back where, you know, I was reviewing the fitness products. I review infrared saunas and other recovery devices. Taz was asking me a lot of questions. And in my mind, although I didn't say it, I was like, you know, we used to have discussions about bad types of heat. And now we're having discussions about really good types of heat. Dad joke right there. So thought he would appreciate that. But we're good. I'm really happy to see Taz. And I'm really happy in a way when I watch Botchamania that people have the cardboard cutout of Taz, but I digress. And he's become a very entertaining meme. I don't know if he appreciates that, you know, but he seems to be having like the best time he can have in the past few years commentating and having him and Excalibur. I remember, was it Dark and Dark Elevation? The commentary was the most entertaining commentary on those because sometimes the matches were just like, what can you say about the matches? Nothing. So they would just rib each other, bury each other, say things, do whatever. Taz would sing Ruby Soho songs and stuff like, or the Jungle Boy song and thing. Everything in Botchamania, pretty much.
Going back to the last line of Old Grey Beardo's question, it says what Taz had to. Basically, asked what did Taz have to say about it. So when did he grip you? When did he sort of discuss the whole pose thing? Did he have your number? Did he call you, or did he bump into you later and talk about it?
I would probably say I'm not quite sure if he directly contacted me then. The conversation I think came up in WWE way down the line, and I believe I did say, "Man, I'm sorry. That was just petty and stupid and young stupidity," and that was it. You know what I mean? I don't even think he came to me with it or we had a quick discussion. It wasn't like, I'm still offended by that or anything like that. It was just a thing. But Taz, I have to say, like, for everybody that said back then or may have goofed on him behind his back, or maybe some people to him, about taking all that so very seriously, you have to give him credit for it, because I think I would rather have people take it more seriously in 2025 than what we see today, where people don't protect their gimmick, their brand, the characters, the storylines, and what they have going on. And another thing about Taz is those t-shirt designs, like you said, man, Taz seemed to have a new t-shirt like every week or two. He designed those t-shirts. So he had outside talents that, if you looked at it, and if I knew at the time, and if Taz knew a little bit more about me at the time, we would realize we had a lot more in common. And maybe Taz would have been somewhat of a mentor to me to say, like, hey, dude, you got to grow up. You got to have some discipline. You got to do that. I wasn't the type of guy that could be coached hard back then because I was way too sensitive. But if you explain things to me, I'd be like, oh, I kind of get it now. Just personality stuff.
Yeah, when did Taz change personality-wise? Because I spoke to Taz. He seems, he's jovial, happy-go-lucky pretty much, and then I hear all these stories about him in ECW, and, very standoffish, always sitting in the corner, maybe with Team Taz or whomever it might be.
He and Perry would be laying their heads at this table they set up on their Halliburtons like this, and you're almost afraid to go up to say hello to them, And I know Perry disagrees with everything I say, but, he would admit that's true. Very intimidating guys. They're intimidating on their own, and then they're paired up together as dual enforcers in the locker room. And they're so tightly connected to that New York clique of Bubba, Taz, Dreamer, and then right along with that, Paulie's in the group. He's the boss, but he's also figured into the New York clique right there. So it's just personality stuff, but what makes the business so interesting that you had a personality like myself and a personality like Taz coexisting on the same TV show.
I was wondering if it was an ECW locker room thing, or the kind of thing where, so we hear stories, and you'll obviously be able to talk about it more than me, is Paul Heyman would get ideas in people's heads, or, I don't know, maybe get people paranoid about their spot, or something like that, where people are maybe a bit oversensitive or overprotective in the locker room with other people. I mean, I'm spitballing ideas, but do you think that could be a reason why Taz was more standoffish back then than he is now?
I have no clue. I don't know. Dreamer and Paul, they knew him as the Tasmaniac and the previous gimmicks to when he finally found the gimmick that worked for him. So I don't know what he was like. They were the ones traveling to and from the Savaldis. They were working up there, I believe, up in the Northeast. So they all, Dreamer especially, they all kind of knew each other before this iteration of Taz. So I don't know. I think when he became a commentator in WWE, it wasn't by the way, I've said it before, WWE completely dropped the ball on Taz, probably worse than anybody I can think of. The Madison Square Garden debut against Kurt Angle, they heard that heartbeat, people exploded, and even Howard Finkel got excited and started announcing him and didn't lay out, and they had to cut it out of the, if you look back on the network, and Taz's pop right up there. And when I heard that, I was like, the knives are out. Even as naive I could be back then, I'm like, the knives are out for this dude, and that's what happened. And it's just like, the WWE just did him a disservice, and they left millions upon millions of dollars, not just for Taz, but for themselves, on the table because of pettiness, and that's where I can agree. I can apologize for my temporary brief pettiness, but that company, man, they need to apologize to Taz because they had lightning in a bottle with that guy and they ruined it.
They didn't drop the ball on Taz. They picked up the ball, they stabbed it 100 times, and then they threw it off a cliff. Like they.
Oh yeah, it was intentional, 100% intentional.
It was so
yes.
intentional. I mean, as soon as and I've said this before, they feuded him with basically the tallest people they could on the roster, and then and I hate to use the word, but they jobbed him out to Triple H. And Tommy Dreamer in the same match somehow as well, even though he didn't work for the company.
My guess would be that was somewhere in an ECW town or Philadelphia. If you're WWE, it was
I can find that out.
But you know what I mean? If you're making educated guesses, if you want the trifecta, bury the two top talents in the ECW like stronghold or somewhere where ECW was really popular.
Right, I'm going to find it right now. Triple H.
Yeah, they put him against
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Wouldn't you believe it?
Not today, CT. Aha.
Jeez. Unreal, isn't it?
See, these people aren't hard to figure out, right? You would think, well, it had to be Philly if you really want to go for it.
Okay, right. So let's go back to the initial arms folding thing in WCW. Were you specifically angry with Taz at the time? Or was there something that was bugging you about Taz at the time? Or were you just goofing?
I was just goofing, but I was kind of in a bad place emotionally. We talked about that during the interview, the WSI interview that I did. It was just immaturity, emotional decisions after emotional decisions after emotional decisions. And I'm injured to a point that I never have been. So you combine that immaturity with not knowing how to handle a neck injury in your 20s. And everything seems to be collapsing. And of course, once I got to WCW, I realized this maybe financially and maybe for the, and even after a few weeks I was wrestling. So I thought I was going to be able to heal the neck injury, which by the way, I was wrong. It wasn't going to heal it. Surgery was necessary from day one. It just went from one level to two levels. But then my personal standing within the business and the heat in the business and not knowing, like I know now, heat always passes. I'm well past the point of these people that we're talking about with Taz and other people that, and then we created a brand new crop of people to have heat with now with the show. So maybe 10 years from now, we'll be best friends too. But yeah, I didn't have the perspective. That's the word I'm looking for to say, well, this is just kind of a blip on the radar and like 5 years from now, or we can talk it out, agree to disagree, and just kind of respectfully go our own ways. I wasn't ready for that for some reason. I go back to the point I made last week and probably next week for part 3. It's incredibly difficult in your 20s to carry the weight and the burden that these kids carry today, along with big money contracts, the immense amount of pressure. I give them all the credit in the world to do what they do. Although we try to tell them, like, listen, we want you to wrestle 30, 40, maybe 50 if you choose to. At this rate, you may not even reach 30, so save that money.
One more thing I wanted to ask you. Why did Taz and Raven never interact in ECW, to the best of my knowledge, anyway? They did in the WWF after the fact, 2001, I think. But I don't know if Raven and Taz were ever buddy-buddy or you saw them interacting, or were they just completely separate parts of the main event scene?
I don't think they were buddy-buddy. I know they mutually respected each other to an extent. I don't think they were friendly as far as, and you have to think, Raven also in ECW, big partier, went out, came into the shows late all the time, which Mania, myself, and Nova always paid for. And Taz, to his credit, was very much, if like college coaches or NFL coaches, if you're on time, you're 15 minutes late. That kind of thing. Discipline, structure, willpower, seriousness. And Raven, if you mix Taz and Raven together, you would have like the perfect person to teach you wrestling from all different points of everything. And Taz really had a different type of perspective on the business as far as making it a UFC style presentation with his gimmick. Raven was the dog and pony show, the storylines and stuff like that. Not to say Taz didn't have storylines and angles and personal issues like Sabu And even when he has neck broken, had a personal issue with that for Scorpio. He had his mix of that. But I believe that Paul was the person that realized, why should I make these two separate and distinct universes clash? It just wouldn't line up. I don't think that if Taz and Raven had a match, that it would have the same as Taz within his wheelhouse and Raven within his wheelhouse. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Paulie probably kept them apart to keep two top stars there that he can interchange in the main event.
I was just going to say it's a shame Raven or, Scotty the Body or whatever never ended up in USWA or Memphis, but he did. 92, 93. So I thought, so he would have been sort of perfect there as Scotty Flamingo, Scotty the Body.
Didn't he have an angle with Lawler with some woman or something? Didn't he have some? He was one of the people that came in to fight Lawler like they all did. I think he was one of them.
Trying to think, who is the Rock and Roll Phantom? Don Bass. There you go. Right, okay, we're going to move on. We're sticking with Raven. This is something I was going to ask last week. It got cut due to time constraints, but this is one of the things that I think we may have talked about in WSI. I can't remember. But we're hopefully going to go even more in depth here. And this is Raven and Hulk Hogan. Now, I don't know if you know this absolutely directly or if Raven suspected, but there are theories abound that Hulk Hogan, and I think it was very clear with previous people in WCW like Brian Pillman, that there were certain guys who came in somewhere in the mid-card. You could tell they had the charisma, they had the ability, they had everything going for them. And that ended up on Hulk Hogan's radar. And in Brian Pillman's example, he was going to be the guy to eat the pin. Do you remember that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage versus 1 million people in that cell, in that cage match? And Hulk Hogan, I think, pinned Ric Flair in the end, even though Ric
was
Flair
that the Triple Tower of Doom or whatever? Okay.
Yeah, it was like uncensored. Brian Pillman was meant to be in that, and he was meant to be the one to take the loss.
Oh, wow.
And then Pillman said he was sick or something, or I don't know what he did, but he ended up not being in that match. So he sort of, was very clever with that. There are theories abound that Raven may have been one of the people that Hulk Hogan tried to hold down politically, and I don't know if the theories stem from the fact that the NWO never interacted with the flock, or that Raven sort of just stayed in the mid-tier, despite the fact of being one of the most popular acts in WCW. But what do you know about Raven, Hulk Hogan, or political forces maybe stopping his rise?
I only know what I know from learning that perspective after the fact, not long after the fact, by the way. But as we're there and we're seeing everything, now obviously you don't want to go around and be excited that we're so over and everything, because you either look like a mark, you look arrogant, or you look like both. Doesn't do you any favors politically in the locker room. And obviously Raven would never be that way. He's very cool, calm, collective. While also, like you said in the notes, he's kind of not afraid to make enemies by taking the chance of being assertive with his creative knowledge. So what his biggest strength is creatively could be the biggest weakness politically, which sucks because there's a lot of great things that never make it to TV because of people's insecurity and their political backstabbing. Nonetheless, Raven was definitely on the radar. If you didn't think Raven was on the radar week in and week out with the reactions he was getting, like we saw on Patreon, even though he's a heel, he's getting a babyface reaction against Savage. They wanted to see him and Savage go. So that's about as close to the sun as you can get before you get to Hogan.
Hey, do you know, can I just say this as well, is that I don't think anyone in that audience with Raven, he'd only had, one match with you, or maybe two, I don't know. They were seeing Raven pretty much on Randy Savage's level. Yeah,
they were. They wanted to see, they're not going to want to see Raven, and they weren't reacting for me being in the ring with Savage as much as they were Raven. I'm just saying, that's the anticipation of saying we see two guys that we want to see fight, and who's going to win. If they know, Savage is going to squash him or beat him, there's not going to be people on their feet the minute those two go face to face. And they look similar presentation, similar size, similar intensity in different ways. It was very interesting. So that watch along we did with my match with Savage, with that post match with Raven, to me lends credence to the fact you have that face off and nothing happens after that, right? Am I wrong? No follow-up, no promo, no mention of Savage, no mention of NWO, Hogan, anything like that. Also, if you think, well, that's just, you're looking at that, with different lenses afterwards. I think what really, and this is going to sound stupid, but when Hogan got his mind on something, he's very hypersensitive and he was very hyper insecure. When Raven made the cover of the video game, I stand by that. Right there with Hogan, Nash, and who else? Goldberg?
Yeah, it was 4 groups. So Goldberg was representing WCW, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, and Raven, yeah.
But Hogan was in there too, right?
Yeah.
What? Hogan sees Raven and Hogan on the video game cover and says, what's this all about? I'm just I'm guessing, I'm speculating, but being on the radar can be one of two things. Now you're talking about stable or group or gang warfare between the NWO and the Flock. Well, the Flock's getting destroyed because everybody in the Flock was a bump W for Raven anyway. So how are they going to, that's the other people in the NWO, which even if they are bump dummies for Hogan, they still stand strong on their own when they're doing like Savage, Kurt Hennig. I can't even name all. They got Nash, Hall, Six.
Yeah, but they had their Virgils as well, or your.
Yeah, but they had way more that carried a push. Virgil, Disco down the line, I think was one. I mean, but I'm saying they had way more guys that were winning matches that were the underneath guys for Hogan in the NWO. They were still getting pushed. The Flock had no chance. So it was probably a blessing that Raven and the Flock didn't go up against the NWO in any way. But in the same vein, you could either do one of two things. If you're on Hogan's radar, you're like Raven. You never make it past this. You're just kind of got your little niche. You have Diamond Dallas Page kind of protecting you on an angle right there because he's friends with Bischoff. You get the Coach Goldberg through a match, his best match, I believe, that he's ever had where he won the U.S. title. And how Raven got rewarded for that match with Goldberg was starting to put everybody over. Did you notice that? Well, you did such a great job putting him over. What about this guy, that guy, and everything? So getting back to Hogan, you either end up on his radar by being ignored and staying in your spot, or you end up on the radar by having that one angle with him where he vanquishes you and he slays the dragon. I don't know. And I don't know what's worse. I think Raven got the better end by being ignored by Hogan rather than Hogan taking an interest in the character of Raven.
Do you have anybody else that you think Hulk Hogan sort of had his knives out for? Because I know
Jericho.
I gave the Brian Pillman example. Jericho? Oh,
Jericho.
Really?
I think Jericho, that's why he left WCW, because he saw that glass ceiling. Jericho, I dare say there was not many more people that got over on their own. If not, he was the only one that really got over on his own doing what he did. And he was in cruiserweights and stuff, but he was almost too big to be a cruiserweight. And dude, for everything they didn't do with Jericho in WCW, night one of Raw in WWF, faced off and doing a promo against The Rock. He was more over in one segment in WWF than the entire run in WCW.
The WCW NWO Revenge game, yeah. So do you know the story about how Raven ended up on that cover?
I do not, but I can assume the video game people were huge marks for him.
Huge fans of Raven. That's how he ended up on it. So it wasn't a WCW directive. This was the THQ or whoever made it. I'm just looking at it now, actually. This is AKI Corporation, THQ, whoever it might have been, made this decision to put him on the cover because Raven was their favorite wrestler. It's like someone very influential, if not like the owner.
Yeah, that just proves it really is who you know. It's all politics. I mean, I spoke about my buddy Pete, who just said, every time you get new gear, just take a picture of all 4 sides, send it to me, and I got a new action figure. Because we were cool with each other. There's nothing wrong with that. And I guarantee you, just my guess, but I guarantee you, they plugged up that loophole after that and said, hey, you have to approve the cover with us before it publishes.
So you've said before, and we're going to say afterwards with the birthday club section, but Raven was good friends with Diamond Dallas Page. Diamond Dallas Page was very connected with Eric Bischoff, of course, because they were neighbours and best mates and other things. And that being said, I'm wondering if Raven... You smiled at me then. Raven... anyway, Raven sort of just ended up where he was, basically. And that he just... After 1998, he ends up just somewhere in the middle of the card, and then he ends up very briefly with that group with Insane Clown Posse, etc. But you've also mentioned the WWF, WWE. Raven had issues politically. Dutch Mantel has said he had issues politically in TNA, which is why he didn't win the NWA title, until 2005, when it would have been better if he won it in 2003 or even 2004, when he was hotter. And Dutch said, and I think you've said in the Stevie Night Heat episodes, that Raven was just difficult to work with, basically, or giving too many ideas for himself, to the point that the creative people, the people who made decisions, just shut him off completely and just wanted him out of the way. Was this the same in WCW? Because I know Kevin Sullivan would say whenever it's time for Raven to lose, he would more often than not talk his way out of losing a match by presenting an alternative. And at one point, Kevin Sullivan just got so exhausted with it that he just went, whatever, your way's better. Just leave me alone.
And that's a Raven technique, to exhaust you and keep asking the same question over and over again, expecting the answer that he wants. It's the definition of insanity, but it works out for Raven because he will wear you down, ask you. His whole thing is, I only know if he did this when you interviewed him. With the, you enjoyed that interview very much from what you told me.
No, I gave myself the Men in Black mind wipe after that.
He shut down WSI single-handedly. So, but what Raven does, and it's a technique, I guess, of narcissists or other people. He's admitted this, by the way, in the trailer for his documentary. I suggest everybody go watch it when it comes out. But basically what he does is he'll come up, and the kiss of death for me, like where my heart sinks, is he'll go, hey, come here, let me ask you a question. And I'm like, oh, God, this is the rest of my day. And I'm sure Dutch kind of said that, and so did Kevin Sullivan. So I'll be like, hey, why did you do this? Well, this is why I did this. Oh, okay. 10 minutes later, hey, come here, I want to ask you something. So why did you do that? I told you 10 minutes ago because of this. He was like, I think you did it because of this. Okay, Raven, go away. An hour later, hey, Stevie, come here, I want to ask you something. Hey, what were we talking about before? Why would you do that? Like a different tone. I was like, I just told you. You know what, Raven? I did it because of the reason you thought. How's that? Okay, I thought so. Walk away. That's the Kevin Sullivan. All right, dude, your way is the best. But the problem is, when you're being that way, there are other people that have a lot more endurance for politics than even Raven. The Hogans and the Nashes and the Halls, mostly the Hogans, will turn around and will wait and know, I can just talk to Bischoff during the week. I can just talk to Bischoff after the show when we go out to the bar. They know better when to pick their spots, where guys like me, Raven, and everybody have to get them when they're at the building. We don't have the access throughout the week. That's where you'll never win with a Hogan. So, but let's erase all that, because I want to not erase it, but let's go in the mind eraser, see, just like your interview. But looking at all that, and the way I'm looking at things now, the way we look at it with the show, Raven brings a lot of great ideas and great creative to the table, probably still to this day. You have to get past some of the presentation, the personality, the delivery, but you can see when Raven's coming up with something, if you can sort through all those weeds, your promotion can make some money based on those ideas. Let's not forget about that. And unfortunately, we're based in a very personal business. People get offended. People get insecure. People get threatened. And people, even if you're presenting it in the cleanest, most friendly, most gracious way, they already have an idea how to bring out the knives and put it in your back.
This is the bit that I'm looking forward to more than anything else.
Man,
you mentioned this 2 weeks. You mentioned this 2 weeks ago to me, and I just said, don't tell me about it. I want to hear it first time on the show. Diamond Dallas Page's birthday club. And all I know about it is involves something about you buying a TV. So what's the full story about? Right, so what's the birthday club? Why did he have to buy a TV? Who did he have to buy a TV for? Everything around it. Dallas, okay. And I've actually even written Dallas Page Buyers Club.
Yeah, it pretty much was like that. And if you've seen people on TV that in some way, like the Flock was a representation of Raven and Page, more so you said a couple people, Page forcing or inserting people into the Flock for Raven because those were part of his group of just people, of talents that he had access to, almost like I was the lackey for Raven. Those people were essentially Page's lackeys or Page's people that they would do things for him or do whatever favors, you know what I mean? Basically, hey, can you do me a favor and do this? Pick this person up from the airport, get me a taco at 2 a.m. That was Billy Kidman told me that one time. He needed to get him a taco at 2 a.m. That's Kidman telling me that. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I did see certain elements of that group of guys. They were underneath Page in a way. The birthday club, there's also the Christmas club, which I'm not familiar with because Page loves Christmas. The birthday club, Raven smarted me up to, and then I didn't believe him, and I asked a couple of those people, and they said, yeah, it's a real thing. Basically, Page had gotten these guys jobs or opportunities, and to pay him back, they needed to buy him something for his birthday. Now, there had to be a minimum value to the gift. I don't know what the minimum value was. Some people said it was $1,000. Some people said it was $2,000, and you needed to buy him that as a thank you for that. In other words, you were being told you were not initiating the gesture of gratitude. You were being ordered to have gratitude and pay the toll to that. These were other people telling me this. Now, Raven told me when I first got there and got the deal that he was starting his birthday club, which included me. And yeah, of course. So he said, you need to buy me this TV. And it was one of those projection, I think a DLP TV with the disc or a bigger TV that was valued probably just under $2,000. Because back then, like TVs are cheap today, but back then TVs were very, very expensive. And he wanted that. And, you know, that was just the rule. Them's the rules. You know, I just, you know, what do I do? And that was the start of you're going to get fired if you don't do this. I'm going to tell Page, tell Bischoff. The Clash of the Champions was the culmination of that. But Raven had ordered me to be a part of the birthday club and buy him a TV.
And did you?
Yeah.
Was it his birthday?
Well, yeah, around that time, because I was still in WCW at the time. His birthday is September 8th. So everybody out there, you want to be part of his birthday club, you know when to buy it for him. But that's, to me, that it's 2025. It sounds ridiculous. But back then, and even when Raven was a guy that was under the tutelage of the Grappler in Oregon. And Grappler made Raven or Scotty at the time do everything. So in ECW, I exchanged being basically go get me food, do this, do that. And I was getting knowledge and learning how to work and psychology. It was not like the exception to the rule back then that you had a mentor that, you know, basically like Harley Race would always make Vader drive or this other guy drive while he, you know, had beers and stuff. There were certain pecking orders where you had to drive, you had to do certain things, you had to get the cooler of beer ready, right? You had to carry bags. Hunter had to carry bags for the Clique. Hunter drove for them. So this is not an exclusive thing. Now the birthday club, not quite sure about that. That could have been like something that was just made up in that little like bubble of Page and Raven.
Who else was in the birthday club of Page and Raven?
I would assume Canyon. I would assume Hammer, Kidman, the taco at 2 a.m. Who else was in there? With Sick Boy, I guess. See, at this point, I wasn't having discussions with anybody really because everybody kind of was on their own island trying to figure out where they were. We knew that or at least I knew I wasn't going to be in the flock much longer or WCW much longer anyway. Raven's quote, I've outlived my usefulness. So he was full of compliments and encouragement at this point. So, but it's what it is. I mean, I told you before, I would not be talking the way I talk about these things. I would not be doing the smart boards. I would not have the level of knowledge, nuance, detail, and be able to present like this without Scotty teaching me what he taught me. So to me, the exchange is well worth it. And if he wanted the TV and somebody says you're an idiot for buying them, I made that money multiple times over back just from this show. So I'm just waiting for him to text me saying I owe him money because I'm making money on the show. Therefore, he gets a piece. Yeah, just like Jarrett with the shirt. We're still going to test that theory, by the way. Aha.
You've mentioned a couple of times, by the way, that Diamond Dallas Page was good friends with Eric Bischoff, and you mentioned twice in a row now in two consecutive weeks that Raven threatened to fire you by going to Diamond Dallas Page to then tell Eric Bischoff. Just how close was Diamond Dallas Page to Eric Bischoff?
As far as I know, they were best friends, like you said. They were neighbors. This was pointed out to me. This was told to me by Page, to move to Atlanta. We're all one big family. As a matter of fact, Paige lives right next door to Eric, and everybody's one big family. Even back then, as naive as I was, and anybody in corporate America knows this, how much does your heart sink and do you get nauseous when the company says, we're like a family, and you're like, oh man, I'm ready to get F now, right? So that even back then I was like, and the pressure to move to Atlanta and be at the beck and call of these people, I was smart enough to know I'm not interested in any of that. And by the way, that probably like accelerated my exit as well from WCW on both ends.
Did you ever go to Dallas Page's house for one of his birthday parties? Was it like, because I mentioned this beforehand, or I think I might put it in the notes, was it like Triple H's bachelor party? You had to go. It was voluntary, but you had to be there.
It's voluntary, right? That kind of voluntary, like the Iraq trip. Mm-hmm. Rob, you're still my hero for that. Oh man, one of my favorite stories. But no, I wasn't even invited, so I wasn't even good enough for the mandatory invite. But I didn't live in Atlanta anyway. If I had lived there, I probably would have been told you have to go there. And I have been to Christmas parties when I worked at DDP Yoga. This is going to sound so weird because I'm afraid to fly too, and I hate to travel, so I picked the perfect job. I do not like being around crowds of people. I do not. I have that social anxiety like anybody else. I like doing what we do here. And even if I was invited, I would not go, which probably would have accelerated my exit even more. Or I probably saved myself $2,000 because I'd probably have to show up with a present, right?
It'd be a heavy one.
I just love the fact, get me a birthday present, but the minimum value needs to be this. Like, how gracious.
Yeah, if you could bring the receipt with you as well.
Well, actually, Paige, smartly enough, at Waffle Houses would say, I want 10 egg whites, bring out the shells. To prove that it's 10 egg whites.
I see what you mean.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I don't want to piss the cooks off either. Anybody who cooks your food, man, I try to be extra nice to them and not give any orders.
You know, The Rock did that. He actually went into the kitchens at Waffle Houses and made his own omelets.
Was he The Rock during this time?
He was the egg. He was the egg.
No. I mean, was he Rocky Maivia or The Rock?
I think he might have started as Rocky Maivia. Would you believe?
But as The Rock, it would be, this is so cool. The Rock is making eggs and waffles. But who the hell is this stupid Rocky Maivia? That might have been what turned him heel. The Waffle House crowd went to the shows and started booing him.
There's the Lex Luger thing here. Should we save it for next week? Because we've got 2 editions of WCW's Nicest. Or I can save half of that for next week as well. In fact, I'm going to do that. Part 2 of it's actually part 4 of WCW's ranking the niceness of people. We can save for next week. I want to get to Lex Luger here because this is a very little known fact, is that one of the most famous title wins in the WCW lore is Lex Luger defeating Hulk Hogan via torture rack submission. Probably, I don't know if it's the first time Hulk Hogan ever submitted, but it's got to be one of the first time, like the first time in 15 years probably. And after the fact, Lex Luger, is cheering in the ring, holding up the belt and everything, and then scores of wrestlers end up celebrating with him in the ring. Now, I've got 4 things of why this is so important, then we'll get to the most interesting bit, which brings you in.
And this was Michigan. Was this Detroit, Michigan, or somewhere in Michigan, correct?
I'll find out for you in a minute. So, number 1, this was the first major time WCW really got a victory over the NWO. I know they did here and there, of course. Like Roddy Piper, of course, at Starrcade 96, but he didn't win the title because the story goes is that he wrote his own contract and then made it non-title. So basically, he's the stupidest wrestler in the world, if that was the case. Number 2, everybody assumed that Hogan would be keeping the belt until Starrcade 97, when he would eventually lose it to Sting. Number 3, turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes in WCW history when Lex Luger was beaten for the WCW title, I think maybe less than a week later. I figure it was Road Wild, or Hog Wild, whatever it was going to be in 97, back to Hulk Hogan. And then it sort of killed Luger's momentum pretty much entirely. And number 4, once again, a bunch of wrestlers celebrate in the ring with Luger with his title victory, including you. How did you end up in that crowd celebrating Lex Luger's title win for a couple of different reasons? Why?
Well, I have no idea, why. I was just grabbed and said, get out there and celebrate with Luger. I had my glasses on, my hair back, fanny pack, Walkman with the headphones. That's how old that was, back in 97. And they wanted everybody to celebrate I guess, babyface or heel alike. If you weren't aligned with the NWO, you were happy about the WCW victory. So they literally just grabbed me and said, get out there. They didn't say, all of you, during the afternoon, are going to be there. They just started grabbing people. I'm sure some people, the main guys who knew he was going over, I didn't even know he was going over. That was very much a surprise for a Monday Nitro in the middle of the Sting angle leading up to Starrcade later that year. Very, very, very strange. So I just remember just clapping, and they told me clap really hard and make sure people know you're really happy about it. And you just stand there and it's like fodder, but it's great. And there are pictures and there is video, obviously, of the title win out there. And that was it. It was just, hey, you're a wrestler with glasses. Get out there, you smart ass. So I have no idea. I just remember that the crowd that was one of the biggest pops at the time that I've ever heard live at a show. And it was really, I don't know if it was necessarily a mistake. The mistake was thinking at Road Wild, and they call it Hog Wild after that, I believe.
No, it was Hog first, but then they had to change it because Harley Davidson owned the trademark Hog.
Okay.
True story. True story. That's why it became
Road
Wild.
No, it is, but you literally, I can see why, but at the same time, what was so strange about it was them thinking that Hulk Hogan would be a heel in that crowd. He got cheered every single time. Because they're Hulkamaniacs from WWF, right? Those bikers grew up on 80s Hulk Hogan.
And he looks like a biker. Like loads of people there probably never seen a wrestling
show. Did he ride a bike to the ring too? And you're just like, well, God.
Yeah, who are you supposed to cheer, I guess. The reason why I said it was so strange is because you alluded to it earlier. You were, I believe, a heel at the time, even though when you were wrestling Raven at Clash of the Champions, you were supposed to be the babyface, but then Raven was getting cheered more. So you really I don't know if you'd be called a tweener at that point, but that's why I said it was weird that you'd be thrown out there with all the baby faces.
Well, I wasn't called anything except you. I was hoping for you from Hogan. That's big money right there. But no, they just grabbed me. There's no urban legend like, let's see if anybody noticed he's a heel. They're just like, you're a warm body. Get out there and celebrate. I think it was like a lot of like the top 4 to 6 guys, but everybody else was like WCW Saturday night full-time wrestlers, like Lenny Lane might have been out there and other people. I don't even know.
How come you were still in the building? I thought you would have escaped as quickly as humanly possible.
No, I wasn't at that point in my career. I still like to be around the business. I like to watch till the end. And no, I wasn't quite as cynical about the business. And I also knew I had a lot to learn. And also politically, I was really frightened to get heat because I did see people leaving earlier and being comfortable. And I said, if I stick around and I'm seen, this is how I got most of my opportunities, James. Yeah, I'm seen. You're here. And that might have been why they pulled me to go into the ring with Luger, because other guys left. You're just standing there. And after the show back then, I always made sure I was by Gorilla in the walkway or whatever it was to make sure the office scene, okay, he's not leaving early or anything like that. I was smart enough to know I needed to get over with the office and the boys to say, I'm not too good. Like, you know how it is. They'll be like, oh, you think you know enough now to leave early? They don't want to take that chance. Or they would have said, oh, you think you know everything, so you stay for the whole show?
Let's talk about Luger. We have to talk about Luger. I know you've got opinions on Luger. I know you met him back in the day. I mean, you celebrated his title win, for goodness sake. So I left him off the nicest wrestlers list because we sort of need to do, I guess, a bit of a deeper dive on Lex. Now, I'm interested in the old Lex rather than the new Lex Luger. How much of the old Lex Luger is left in the new Lex Luger may even be up for debate, I don't know, but he's rather very much a changed person, I guess, for the most part. But Luger, as far as his reputation goes, he was, aside from that, he was unfathomably popular in 1997. He didn't even really do that much with him. He was almost like Jeff Hardy before Jeff Hardy. You just put him out there, and people loved him for it. They loved his finisher, and then that's, I guess, why he won the title. It was just his time, because they couldn't ignore his popularity, because, like, the month before, he beat
well, actually, they ignored Raven's popularity, so they could if they wanted to.
Do that. That being said, what do you think of Lex Luger personally? I'm sure you saw him operating behind the scenes.
Well, I think more people that have had more, I guess, run-ins or experience with Luger already put those stories out about what Luger used to be like. And I don't know Luger at all, even post the fact I just see the videos and how much he has changed and professed to change and tried to further change himself and better himself as time goes on. But back then, man, swarmy, arrogant, cocky, insincere, grin effing you. Like, for instance, here's what encapsulates all that. I was smart enough to know this back then, but you go around, shake hands with everybody, introduce yourself, and then you'd just be sitting there, and it was the wrestling locker room. I put myself over, not me, because I just sit there not saying anything, but say, this guy put himself over. Yeah, but I'm more over because of this. Yeah, but this. It's the old measuring contest of who can one-up each other and be more over and have a funnier story and be more interesting. But I remember Luger, when I came in, someone had said, oh, the Stevie and Raven are from ECW, ECW. He was like, oh, yeah. Oh, my God, I'm such a big fan of your work. Just when you do that thing, when you do the thing, oh my God, it's super over. You used to do that thing, the thing? Do the thing here. Oh, and you guys, man, I mean, just, oh, unbelievable. Okay. I just look at him. Like, do the thing tonight like you did back in the E place. The E place where ECW, we get it. I know you've watched all my stuff. That was Lex Luger. Mm. Am I off base?
Sounds about right.
He did that thing more than once. So by the second or the third, definitely the third time, maybe the second. And usually I would do this when someone's saying something to me, and I'm just like, it's like more than an eye roll. You can eye roll, or when someone's saying something so ridiculous that it's like the Charlie Brown, like the teacher. When he's saying that, I make this face, which I said you can make into a thumbnail. Like right to him. And he wouldn't even sell because he's so self-absorbed at the time with his own story. He's not even paying attention. And sometimes a little drool would come out and I would just be in a catatonic state during the story where Luger's obviously the hero. of everything.
I know I said this off. I might have said it on a show. Keep in mind, once Buff Bagwell did tell me that him and Lex Luger called themselves the first percentiles.
In the locker room or on TV?
I don't know if they just said this to each other in the gym or something, or they describe themselves as the first percentiles, not understanding what percentiles are, which makes me really happy they did that. So basically, they're telling themselves they're in the bottom 1%.
That's true. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Because when he told that me, I was taken aback. So I actually questioned myself for a brief second. It's like, no, I know what percentiles mean. Anyway,
yeah.
Right.
You need to go to Steiner for that math and figure that out. He'll tell you exactly where you fit in.
Dude, Bron Breaker's doing it now. I'm so pleased he's sort of picked that up and continued with it. Right, we are now going to do something we've not done for a while. It's a ranking, and I had completely forgotten. Nearly a year ago now, we'd actually done like the Nicest Wrestlers WCW Edition 1 and 2. But what we'd done was an invasion version of it. So essentially wrestlers who are either going to come in 2001 or would come in 2002 or even maybe 2003 were included. So if there are a lot of names, or at least a fair few names you're expecting on this list that aren't, that's why we probably on parts 1 and 2. So this is really going to be WCW's Nicest, ranked A to D, I think we'll do. Once again, and then maybe, a special, head and shoulders above the rest to end it on as well. And this is going to be part 1. We're going to say part 3, and then part 4 we're going to save till next week. So, I've got a list of names. Once again, the parameters are going to be A, unbelievably, fantastically, lovely and nice. B, pretty darn cool. C, not that bothered one way or another, or it could be a bit aloof or whatever it is. And then D, just an absolute raging butthole. I think that's pretty much a fair A to D reference for them. And the first name I've got on part 3, J.J. Dillon.
Now, JJ, obviously, there's office people, and JJ is one of those office people. So obviously, you're not going to be too friendly with them. They're not going to be too friendly with you. But JJ also holds a special place in my creative heart because one of those promos live on Nitro, my favorite one, as a matter of fact, during my whole time there, was with Gene Okerlund. JJ Dillon had the Raven thing where I say basically he's making almost as much money as I am, all these different things. But to interact with JJ and not have anything really scripted, and when I say Raven's down there and we're at the top of the ramp, and JJ goes, oh, you want us to go down there? And I go, well, let's be honest, JJ, you need the exercise. And I grab him by the hand, and drag him to Raven, and he's resisting. And then even in the background, as Raven is doing his promo and other things, I'm trying to grab the pen from JJ to get the contract signed, and there's all these little Easter eggs. And JJ was just great. You know what he reminded me of in that segment? Like Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun or the Police Squad series, where he's totally straight, but it's comical when you really look at it. You got Gene doing Gene. JJ is completely straight-faced office guy, but somehow, in a way, one of the funniest bits of the act. And then Raven's deadpan and I'm doing my thing. So outside of that, just day-to-day, professional. Nice wouldn't be the word, but he was nice enough to show some vulnerability and play along with a goofy little thing. That one experience, and after that, very cordial, very professional. I would probably have to put him at a B because personally we didn't know each other or anything, but he was very gracious. He lent some, advice or whatever here and there. But once again, with the office, you're not going to fly too close to the sun with that.
So, I don't know if he was office at the time. I guess he was, but Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, Tony, I don't know if he was office, definitely a commentator. Tony shocked me because Tony, I grew up watching. This is where I have heat with him still, with the Blue Chew ad and ruining my childhood. But basically, Tony commentates like the all-American guy. You can't even see the guy saying the word ass or any other curse word or anything. So when Tony was cynical, sarcastic, not in a mean way, but witnessing how he could, not only take it, but dish it out, like little quips and jabs and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like a natural born heel, you know? And he's always very good. In the commentary, he always, put over the fact that I was a clueless putz on the matches and on the segments. But after that, I really just shook his hand, said hello. I'd have to give it a C just because I did not interact with Tony enough. So nothing personal, but outside of professional, there was nothing that Tony and I had personally interacted on. Obviously, I'm biased with the JJ thing. JJ and I never hung out or had dinner or talked at length, but there was still somewhat of a more conversation between JJ and myself.
Mickey J.
Very nice guy. I give him a B. Basically, ref those 2 matches we watched, but also in the back, he gave some feedback. He was a former wrestler. Asked him for some feedback in the matches or some, things we could do. And he was happy to offer any kind of help. So very limited with the interaction outside of backstage, talking the match over, a little bit of locker room, and especially in the ring. But everything was very, very nice. And he was also very, how should I say, generous with his time to give advice.
Now, we may have mentioned it before in a previous ranking with WWE. I can't remember, but I wanted to put him again, Eddie Guerrero.
Now, this is different because I didn't know Eddie. With WWE, he's an A or an S. But I did not know Eddie well enough back here to know anything. So I have to give him a C. Very cordial. Hello, goodbye. We didn't get to know each other till well into WWF.
I think it's fine to use WWF, so I think we should put him in an A.
All right, put him in an A.
Yeah, absolutely. Kurt Hennig. Oh, I'm sorry.
And this is when he went through all that stuff, too.
Yeah.
Eddie, thank God he got all through that. And it can't be said enough. This guy went to ROH, had some great matches in ROH, and redeemed himself and reinvented and ended up in WWF after that.
Kurt Hennig, who was jumping to WCW around the same time as you at this point.
Once again, didn't know him anywhere near as much as I saw him in WWF, but I'd still have to give him maybe a C. Cordial, professional, hello, goodbye, and gracious enough to hear me basically mark out for the Bret Hart match, the SummerSlam match, the Intercontinental title match.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you've got like later, impressions of
combine
them
it
better
into
than
that.
WCW,
So I give him more between a B and a C, but a C just because not much personal interaction. Now remember, if you had a lot of personal interaction with Kurt, chances are he was going to rib you. I knew that. So I kind of stayed away.
Well, do you know what you weren't going to get was like one of the legs off your jeans cut off because you've already done it yourself. At least you knew your clothes weren't going to get ruined.
He's probably, but you know what he would have done? He would have sewn a leg onto one of them. Look who did this. Who gave me pants?
Right. Larry Zbyszko.
I can base Larry off WCW as well as TNA, where he used to come by TNA and visit and sometimes be part of the show. I would give Larry a B. Larry was fun to be around. He would tell stories. If I asked him about Bruno, asked him about AWA, he would answer. And obviously, he wants to, I don't think too many people at the point of even TNA were asking him about that. And plus, I enjoyed the fact that Larry at least paid attention during commentary to the match. He could very easily have checked out or did whatever. Now, we made a joke. If you didn't hook the leg, he would criticize you for not hooking the leg. If you hooked one leg, he would say, why didn't you hook 2 legs? And then if you hooked 2, he'd be like, why didn't you hook 3? But I enjoyed that. And Larry's, I don't know. I never had to work Larry or do anything. And this was during the time, I believe, he and Scott Hall had a big thing going on. That's why when I shoved Tenay, Scott Hall would come up to me and say, dude, I'm doing a big angle with Zbyszko. Please don't do that again. But Larry was very great. And as a matter of fact, after that happened with Tenay, not only did I say I was sorry to Scott Hall, I apologized to Larry. And I think that kind of let Larry know, okay, this kid respects the business to some extent.
Prince Iaukea.
I have to give him a B just because more personal conversations backstage. We were kind of on the same level with what we were doing. And this is well before he became, what was he? The artist formerly known as
thing.
and all that.
Yeah.
He was basically Prince Iaukea. seemed to be a very nice guy. We would talk about things outside of wrestling. We weren't friends, but we were friendly in the locker room, and that was fine. So, C's more like professional, very courteous, but no personal conversations at all. So, or you didn't have a funny comedy segment as a legend like JJ Dillon.
Squire Dave Taylor, which I always loved that nickname as well, Squire Dave Taylor.
I did not have many personal interactions with him until after WCW and found out how incredibly funny and entertaining and his big boisterous personality and everything. So I would give him a B. And he's a heel in a way where you want him to kind of bury you, because even when he dresses you down, it feels so proper. It's a British accent. Even when he's just telling you how like worthless you are, it's like, wow, I feel like he's giving me a compliment.
I'm adding names on as well to the end of this, so I'm sorry, there's going to be more that you're not prepared for. Scott Hall. Now, you've been WCW with him. I know he was in ECW when you weren't there, but he was in WWE for a few months when you were on Raw at the same time. You even worked with him on the indies and I guess maybe conventions as well. So sort of combine all those. Because obviously last week you told the story about Scott. He was really winding you up to the point that you were about to have an angina attack, that Kevin Nash was, going to grip you, and obviously it was all, in good fun.
The anxiety attack or the heart attack or whatever it might be was strictly the anticipation of, I just want to talk to Kevin. It wasn't like I'm going to avoid Kevin for the next 2 years. We're going to bump into each other. I just wanted to get it over with. And he did not. So Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Two different ratings on Scott Hall. As with most of the people in wrestling, when it comes down to this, one-on-one, he's a B. One-on-one, very gracious. He immense amount of knowledge. Psychology, definitely knows the business, could teach people a lot. And obviously in certain environments, he's a B. At the top, he's a B. I was always friendly, but never felt close. Around people, especially certain people in groups, he's a D. Because he's showing off, and it's the old anything. One-on-one, and then the playground around all your friends, you're going to show off and try to be big man on campus. And I got it. I played along with it too. Let him have his moment. He'll be cool to me when he's not around him.
Hard work Bobby Walker.
I don't know. Is there one that's like an NA?
Yeah, NA.
Like not a. Now there was 2 nicknames for Bobby Walker that was in the locker room. I never said it. It was either hardly work Bobby Walker, can't hardly work Bobby Walker, can't work Bobby Walker. So they were making up all these different nicknames for him. Who was the one that got? He wasn't the one.
No, you're thinking Hard Body Harrison. I already know what you're thinking.
Oh my God, dude!
Hey, did you ever speak to him? Because apparently he was just nuts anyway.
Yeah. I think he was in the locker room doing like one of those Disney MGM. Imagine that guy as a dingy Disney MGM for the worldwide tapings.
Yeah, he was probably scouting for future employment.
I got a very, very I didn't know about all that, but I was like, he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, stay away from him.
Ernest the Cat Miller.
Later on, I got to know Ernest better. And once again, personality-wise, once you get to know the guy's personality, he's just a boisterous guy. He's like a Booker T, very boisterous, over the top. But Luke Hawx is really, really tight with Ernest Miller. So I got to know Ernest a little bit better through him, the real Ernest. Whenever he talked to me, he was cool. Never friendly and talk about certain things outside wrestling. So I'd start to put him in a C, but never had a crossword. And he's the real deal, man. He was Bischoff's karate instructor, right? Mm-hmm. So he's the real deal. He could definitely go.
Right, I think we may have an A here, Wrath.
You know what? I would put Brian, now that I got to know him over the years, in the S category.
Mm.
One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And one of the guys that, like, how many different iterations of Brian were there where he had it, but could never break or stay in that main event? Even Adam Bomb, in a way, had that very kid-friendly thing, especially when he turned babyface, and it just never seemed to translate. In other words, in a different world at a different time, and if Glenn Jacobs didn't exist, he could have been Kane. Same body type, same move set, same look. He could have very easily have been that in a different time.
Jerry Flynn. Not Jerry Lynn, but Jerry Flynn.
No, Jerry Flynn, once again, a real karate guy and real martial arts guy. Super nice guy. Did I have one match with him on Worldwide? I think I did.
Not that I can find in your match.
Well, you're not going to find a video because they got rid of all that. But
Yeah.
Jerry was really nice. We had some interaction and conversations outside wrestling, so I kind of would have put him in B. My category is obviously D, someone that's not nice. C is mostly wrestling talk and professional. B is a little bit of friendly talk, but courteous. A is we became friends. And S is probably like above and beyond nice. And that's definitely Brian. So I put Jerry in the C.
In a C. Steve McMichael, the dearly parted Steve McMichael who passed away recently.
Yeah, rest in peace. Although he was a pretty wild dude back then in WCW. I remember him coming up to me in a bar. I was trying to get food because I wanted to get the heck out of there. And for some reason, Steve, when he greeted certain people, would bite them. And I was one of those people he would bite on the shoulder. I remember he bit Hoovy on the shoulder one time, and Hoovy laughed it off. And it was the first time he bit me, so I was like, "Are you mad at me?" He goes, "Oh no, baby, I just think you're great." I was like, "Oh, I do this. Is that okay?"
Maybe you just thought you were clean.
Maybe. I think I was supposed to have a match with him on Worldwide as well, which I was like, please God, no. Please God, no. I was going to do the Jeff Jarrett pin myself spot, which he did with McMichael, remember?
No.
He pulled McMichael on top of him. I think that was the match.
No. Oh, you
And
mean
he
it wasn't meant
himself.
to happen that way?
No, it was meant, but Jarrett just pulled him on top to get it over with. I would still say a C, because somehow just biting me on the shoulder was still a professional courtesy. I don't know. It's wrestling.
The Renegade.
Never met him.
You were on cards with him, a couple of cards with him. That's where I got his name.
He was somewhere separate. I would have remembered meeting him just for the fact of obviously urban legend. Even at that time, he's imitating the Ultimate Warrior. So I never got to know him. But man, he was in a really tough spot, man. And it definitely, from what people who knew him said, weighed him down to try to live up to that back then. And like I said, other things, you look at it 20, 30, 25, 30 years later, and you're like, well, why did he do it? It was just right. Back then, it was so much different. Things did kill your career or never launched them off the ground. And it's a horrible feeling when you go and you train for maybe, I don't know the guy, but maybe a dream he had since he was a kid. And he's saying, I get to be like a version of the Ultimate Warrior. Yay. But then when you do it, you're like, oh. It's a horrible mental and emotional roller coaster ride. And then when it's done, what are they going to do with you? So I feel for the guy.
It's kind of like, I mean, if you know where like the convention scene and memorabilia collectors would be 20 years after the fact, that even someone like Renegade could, do some brisk business at a convention, over a weekend and sort of, get a
well, if you
pension
have
out of that way.
Shockmaster on it. Yeah, Shockmaster is doing shoot interviews and making conventions, and now everybody can laugh at it and everything. No doubt if Rick, I think his real name was Rick, if he could have survived whatever emotional thing he was going through, a mental thing, he would be looked on as a nostalgia thing that people, like Glacier, people wanted Glacier to make a comeback years ago. They did a documentary. If you last long enough, people want to see you and appreciate you after time.
Yeah, Rick Wilson was his real name. I thought you were going to say Rick Fuller, but I don't know if you knew Rick Fuller.
Oh, Rick Fuller, super nice guy, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Rick Fuller, I put in an A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about Rick Fuller then. Because people,
Rick
it's
Fuller.
just one of those guys that I don't think many people would remember the name Rick
Dude,
Fuller of WCW.
he would light Luger up. Remember on Saturday night? Luger would run from him. That's when I started liking him. But we became friends, and I even went up to Plymouth, Massachusetts, met him and his wife. We ate at this lobster shack that was right on a pier on the water. Very nice guy. I hope he's doing well. Hope he's doing great. He was always a very quiet. He reminded me of Glenn Jacobs, but had immense talent. I always thought they were going to do something with Rick Fuller. He had a lot of him and that Rochester Roadblock guy. I thought they were going to do something with both of them.
Next one, Dave Penzer, the announcer.
I would give him a B. We had conversations, never friends, but friendly. Always a nice guy. Then in TNA, wasn't he in TNA when ring announcing when I was there, right? Yeah. So we continued that. He was always a solid B, always a nice guy.
He's got a book out. Guy Evans wrote it as well. I think that came out last year or the year before. The tag team of High Voltage, Robbie Rage and Kenny Chaos, I guess.
They were nice guys. They just trying to fit in, trying to figure it out. They obviously, some of the guys in the locker room called them a high dosage. Figures you would appreciate that. And they were nice guys, but I didn't get to know them personally too much, so I have to give them a C.
Next one, I don't know if you ever even spoke to this guy, but Eugene Nagata, who I believe is still wrestling, isn't he?
He's still wrestling, yeah. I would also say that's not a rating because I never really talked to him. I was scheduled to have that one match with him on Worldwide, but I don't believe I did.
Medusa,
you know what's funny about Medusa? She always scared me a little bit, and I was always in the conventions too, because she's just a tough person, let's put it that way. But also I never quite, like I'd say hello and goodbye to her or whatever. And I'm sure from the whole thing, from dumping the belt in the trash can and knowing, like I said about Renegade, knowing that at the time she was blacklisted in WWF forever at that time. So maybe she was carrying around some of that. But I got to talk to her once or twice at conventions, and there was, I said hello to her, and I said something like, I always got the impression you didn't like me. And she didn't even argue. I was like, okay, I guess. But then later she said hello to me, but very, people are going through stuff, James. And I always am very aware of that now. But back then, you're always in your own little universe. So you don't know what other people are going through as well. So, that's it right there. I have to give her a C. Hello and goodbye. But there was always a little part of me that was like, back then I was just a little scared of her.
Did you ever get to know any of the women wrestlers in WCW? Because they didn't have a division, pretty much. I mean, it was very rare that women wrestlers would even be on the show.
There's the one Nitro girl that, oh my God, her name escaped, Melissa. She came around DDP Yoga years and years later. And she was always very nice. I think her name was, her name's Melissa, her real name. But back then she was one of the Nitro girls. Spice. So she was very cool, very nice. Back then she was very cordial. So I would give her a C, and then she became a B when she was hanging around DDP Yoga, and always very, very cool.
Now, I've also put Ted DiBiase in WCW. Now, I think we mentioned him on the agents list in WWE. I know you were a big fan of him at the time.
We wanted to do the laugh every time. Yeah. We would not listen to any advice or finishes before the laugh.
Ted DiBiase in WCW, because I guess when you were there with him, he may have been managing the Steiners, and he was already unhappy that, I guess, Eric Bischoff had usurped his role in the NWO, because I don't know if people remember this. He was the original mouthpiece, the manager of the NWO. He was the money man. He was Billionaire Ted, piggybacking off WWF calling Ted Turner Billionaire Ted, and then he became
This
Billionaire
is before
Ted
they made Bischoff the man.
Exactly, but as soon as Eric Bischoff gets involved, then Ted DiBiase's surplus to requirements, and then he's nothing. But I think he once told Eric, he said, look, I didn't turn up here to be Virgil. Which is funny because he was in the group with Virgil at the time.
Very weird inception right there, wasn't it?
Ted in WCW if you spent time with him, or just give him a ranking, when you knew him later.
I have to give him a C. Ted's always been, even when I saw him in airports, I remember I saw him at the Delta First Class Lounge or the Delta Lounge, whatever. He got in because he was first class. I happened to have an American Express Platinum, so I got in there. I remember having a brief conversation with him, but it was always very in and out with him. And I know he had a lot on his mind probably and other stuff. Like I said, everybody's going through some stuff. And he probably just wanted, this is when he was a WWE agent. So I know you want time to yourself after that, you know? But that's all it ever was besides that. So I have to give him a C. But these C's are not like less than, this isn't closer to the D. It's much closer to maybe the B with that.
I've added 3 more names written down, and then the rest we'll talk about next week. Kimberly Page, because the reason she came up was because you were wrestling Diamond Dallas Page, of course. The 2 separate matches in WCW that we watched on the Stevie Richards Patreon. That's exclusive to that Patreon. But we never mentioned Kimberly.
No, I give her a C because I never really got to know her outside of, hello, goodbye, thank you before the match, thank you after, the wrestler courtesy.
Yeah.
Just to see. Even Paige, I didn't even know Paige that much at that time. I know I was a TDP for a while. I didn't know this guy from anybody but Raven at the time. There was very much a weird dynamic, but more professional, but still, we talked about it multiple times. The political interaction in circles that I wasn't a part of.
2 more names, and you've spoken about him before. I don't think he's come up in a ranking list yet, but Rowdy Roddy Piper.
I did not interact with him anywhere near as much, or really at all, in WCW, but I would give him a B. I had personal conversations with Roddy in WWE. He seemed very gracious, of course. With Roddy, maybe it's the gimmick, maybe it's the personality. Terry Funk was famous for this as well. As friendly as I was with Terry, there was still sometimes get in and get out because I don't want to catch him at the wrong day, wrong time, wrong mood, wrong whatever. You know what I mean? There's always, maybe that's the gimmick. It's true to the gimmick. There's always that unpredictability with Roddy that you just don't know what you're getting. Pillman was like that, but that was part of the gimmick.
And the last name I've got on this list, supposedly the nicest guy in wrestling history, Earl Bobby Eaton.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nice. Super nice. Hey, his famous words, when he did speak, hey, don't talk, can't get heat. I was like, wow, that stuck with me. That stuck with me. Did I listen? Not all the time, but it stuck with me. So, yeah, he's right up there. He's an A. Rest in peace, Bobby Eaton. Anytime I did talk to him, mostly professional, a little bit of personal stories here and there. Now, obviously, I'm going to ask him stories about the Midnight Express.
Right then, we're going to conclude the WCW Part 2 thing there because, to be honest, we've got enough for a Part 3, plus we want to get to the ECW, the wonderful week and a half in ECW you spent in late 1997, or whatever we're going to call that episode as well. So, plenty more coming next week, and I think the week after we're going to do a fan mail episode. And I'm not even sure I'm going to solicit questions. We've got so many backed up, we might as well just pick some of those as well. But this show isn't even remotely done yet. We've got to talk about the news. And a few different things we're going to be bringing up. We're going to be bringing
Wait a minute.
Oh,
you had 2 different things. You're going straight to the news. What about the Damien 666 story, the match?
Next week.
I'm sorry. I'm not. I thank you.
Yeah,
I tried, everybody. Hey, this guy's trying to get it under 2 hours. Just tell him to give up already.
Oh, for God's sake, it's already 1 hour, 35.
140 or something.
Yeah, see, it's like 1 hour 35, 1 hour 40. It's never going to happen. But we are going to go for the news because we've got 3 things. So we've actually scrubbed one of the bits of news, right? And it was going to be Stevie talking about the Vision, Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman. And I said, that's a bit more evergreen because we should really be talking about Omos and Microman. And I should have actually got you to watch Mr. Iguana as well, but that can wait for another week as well, I guess. We're also going to be talking about, in a short while, Chris Jericho, and it's rumoured that he's going to be going back to WWE. But first off, people know you, Stevie, through Stevie Richards Fitness, of course. You've had a fitness brand for a while. You guide people in their journeys, I guess, into fitness, not only physically, nutrition-wise as well. Anyway, a photo made the rounds on social media a couple of days ago. Triple H, Paul Levesque. Let's use his real name. He's off the clock. He's Paul Levesque here. He is out in Greece somewhere on the water. He's hired a yacht. with his wife Stephanie McMahon and I guess the rest of his family. Anyway, some paparazzi-style photos emerge and have done the rounds on social media the last couple of days. He is not looking as fantastic as he once did, for very understandable reasons, I guess. And it's going to be a multi-pronged question, this really. A few, and you know what these people are like, a few people saying, oh my God, look how fat he is, blah, 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 blah. And, obviously these are all profile, pictureless, nameless people with no accountability, I guess making fun of Triple H because he doesn't look, like he did when he was 23. That being said, you've seen the photos, you've seen the comments. What are you making? It's all a mountain out of a molehill, of course, but what are you making of Triple H's physique and the comments directed to him?
Well, I make it first and foremost when I see the picture, a guy who survived a major medical event and is alive and walking and at least healthy enough to run a company and go on the occasional vacation with his wife on a boat. And it's very sunny, it's very hot, you're going to have a bathing suit on. I can understand that probably Hunter, or say let's Paul, this guy, he's a bodybuilder. He's a big bodybuilding fan. He's followed bodybuilding. He's studied bodybuilding. He's as much or more of a fitness enthusiast as I am. And by the way, I believe he knows how to train better than I do. You know why? He knows how to rehab injuries. He goes to the right people, the Joe DeFranco and other people to train him to recover and train properly. I'm about to go on that journey to hire somebody to build back up the foundation so this back flare up, this disc hitting the nerve or any other spinal issues never happen again, or at least don't happen anywhere near as much. So this guy's an encyclopedia of knowledge that could teach any of these purple egg Twitter people anything about fitness. So let's start off right there. This is a dude that might not or should not be alive today, but he's blessed enough to be alive for his 3 daughters, his wife, and the people in WWE. He's trying to put the best product out there. Do we criticize it? Of course. Do we still think he's a mark for himself when he comes to these things? Yes. This can live and the other opinion can live at the same time. This is a human being, and dare I say it, I would kill to look like that right now because I've been accused of having AIDS. So there you go. I still weigh 188 pounds. I've lost so much muscle that's been incredibly hard to put back on. I'm not making it about me. I'm just saying for that dude to have the schedule he has, and I know he's still working out, but guess what he's working out for? His health, his wellness, his longevity, and the side effect hopefully will be a good physique. Does he have it right now compared to what he had before? No. But like you said in the notes, thank God he's not training to be in the ring again. He's training to be the COO or the chief content officer or whatever it is of WWE. And compare him to any other executive in corporate America, I'd still say he's pretty jacked. So guess what? I'm saying this with 4 to 5 videos saying that Triple H is a mark. Leave the dude alone. He doesn't deserve this. Now you're a public figure, just like people say, I look sick, I look emaciated, and all these other things. We put ourselves out there. When people see me in a tank top and I don't fill it out, I'm opening myself up to say, you look like crap. I understand it. I'm not at the peak of my physical condition, of my fitness level right now. But I as well as Triple H, as well as Paul Levesque, am still recovering from a major medical event, a major medical illness. And this guy deserves a little bit of grace and a little bit of understanding. And I'm telling you right now, I'll bookend it with this. That guy knows more about fitness, health, wellness, nutrition, rehab, recovery than myself and anybody else out there could ever learn.
I think people
they're probably shocked at that, huh?
I think people forget that one, he's in his 50s. I mean, he's very similar age to you, I think, and you've worked out throughout your life. You'll know that you just don't pack on the muscle in your late 40s or 50s like you did in your 20s. I mean, it's harder to, I guess, lift the same you did, you have to make adjustments, and at some point you have to sort of just acquiesce to Father Time. You can't do everything you once did.
Yeah, yeah. And let's say this, okay, for people, we put it out there too. It's obvious throughout wrestling careers of certain people that they've done stuff. They've done PEDs, they've done stuff to either be shredded, big, or big and shredded at the same time. They've done whatever they wanted to do and made that choice, or should I say, excuse me, whatever they felt like they needed to do to get the money, to get the fame, to get the WrestleMania spots, to get the big, like, legends, like career out of that. But when you do steroids, when you do growth hormone, when you do PEDs, guess what you have to do? The work. Still have to eat right. You still have to, actually, it just enables you to push your body further. So actually, you're working out harder. The recovery is better. You're able to do those things. So it's not like he just went in there and did leg press, leg curl, leg extension, calf raises, and grew 60 pounds of muscle. He literally had to destroy his body and work harder, like on an Arnold type level of workouts back then to be able to do that. Now he's on the opposite end. I think he's been quoted like it used to be 75 to 80% of my workout was like the workout, like weights, cardio, whatever. And he goes, now 75 to 80 or more percent of the workout is the prehab warm up and the post workout rehab stuff. And the actual weights and everything are like this much of the workout. And that's when he was working out with Stephanie, Joe DeFranco, great trainer online, by the way. Check out his content. And that's a guy. Also, I couldn't do it, by the way. You work out or you worked all day and all night. Joe DeFranco drives to your home gym at like midnight and you train and you get up early the next morning and do it all over again. So we can criticize him. We can accuse him of certain things. But this right here, it's low-hanging fruit for the wrong reasons. The dude's been through hell, and he still looks pretty damn good. Let's not twist it.
How would you advise, and I know you don't have any direct information about this, but if somebody has had what I think they termed was a major heart event, so basically a heart attack or whatever it was, obviously there's different stages and different seriousness, and apparently it was real touch and go for Triple H. How would you advise him when to get back in the gym, and how do you sort of not cause another heart event, I guess, with the workouts you're doing? How do you adjust?
Well, first and foremost, before we get into that, and we had this edited out on a previous episode, I went through something like this in 2008, nothing to the point of him, but I had to be really careful of my heart after my event happened in 2008, right after I got released from WWE. So high anxiety, all that stuff, and it caused an event in my life. So I have a little bit more understanding. Now I don't have the level of what this guy was like, literally, as he said on that Stephen A. Smith interview, that he was like, whatever, a couple of yards from the goal line of the end of his life or whatever metaphor he used. That's strictly for a cardiologist. Now, obviously rest and no stress and nothing that's going to raise your blood pressure, raise your heart rate, an impossibility when you have a passion for the business like Paul Levesque does. But eventually, I think what happens after that is cardio has to become a big part of your fitness journey. Your heart is a muscle. You have to train it. You rest it until the scarring and whatever else goes away, or whatever they might have had to done surgically, maybe. Maybe they had to do something like a bypass or a stent. I don't even know what they did, but it seemed really, really serious at the time. I would definitely think after you're able to rest, recover, you keep your heart rate at a controlled level, and then it needs to be monitored. And then there comes a point, I think, where you really do need to start strengthening that heart. I remember when Scott Hall was alive, and he said that his doctor said his heart rate and his blood pressure cannot get above a certain number. So I don't know, with some cases, cardio would be the worst thing. With other cases, strengthen that heart, strengthen the muscle, and do some very low impact and very, I would say, steady state cardio is his friend. HIIT training and going way up and down might be too much stress. And that might be something I recommend for any man my age or any person my age to be careful not to stress that heart out too much.
I think, just to wrap it up.
By the way, we're not professionals. We're not doctors. We're not offering medical advice. Consult a medical professional. We need to say that disclaimer.
Yeah, obviously he doesn't look like He-Man anymore. He doesn't have to. He's a COO or whatever he is, Chief Creative Officer. He's filming Unreal, constant appearances. He's working every single day, I'm presuming, unless, very, very rarely. The head of WWE Creative has had barely any time off. But the one comedy is that somebody, I know who it was, Andrew Dice Clay on Twitter, posted an image of him 20 years ago from probably the last time he had a day off and he went to the beach. And he's still wearing the same swim shorts 20 years apart, which goes to tell you just how few days off he actually has, that he's not gone through those swim shorts and bought a new pair since. So how hard this dude works. I mean, regardless of what we say about his creative or anything else, I mean, you cannot ever fault the guy's work ethic.
And also, I give it to him that, like, he might be trying to copy my wardrobe like you're trying to copy. You just got the same. I got 3 of the 3-pack from Amazon of swim shorts that I actually wear when I work out. So it looks like the same ones. But to be a multi-millionaire and still be frugal and wearing the same swim shorts, that's you're part of, dude, just like Taz. We're more alike than you've realized, Paul. I'm sorry.
We're going to save Omos and Microman for the end. We're going to talk about Chris Jericho. So there has been rumors, Stevie. You know how you like a rumor. Chris Jericho to WWE, this is from WrestleZone, this write-up, is a WWE return on the horizon for Chris Jericho when his contract with All Elite Wrestling expires later this year. It's believed it's going to expire at the end of the year or not far from the end of the year. Anyway, over the weekend, the former AEW World Champion got the wrestling world buzzing after liking a post on Instagram stating his contract with the company was up at the end of the year and that he'd be open to a WWE return depending on the situation. Now, that's not the first time he's done something like this. Do you remember when he was renegotiating with WWE, and I think he had a website at the time and he posted like a TNA logo or something at the time? So he's not...
TNA as Jericho, I think, wasn't it?
Something like that. And on the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer spoke on the Chris Jericho situation. Here's the quote. Chris Jericho is actually a really big story. His AEW contract is up at the end of the year or late in the year, and there's certainly been lots and lots of talk about WWE. I know from a WWE standpoint there is lots of talk about Jericho. People speculating Royal Rumble. Nobody's officially said anything, nor will anyone official say anything. So it remains interesting how... no, that's actually my notes. But yeah, what do you think about Jericho going over to WWE one last time? Because I sort of thought at the age he went to AEW, which would have been his late 40s, that probably would have been the last contract he'd ever sign. Maybe not.
Well, I don't think this is the way Chris wants to go out, though. And deep down, every wrestler, it's still instilled, especially from our generation, Jericho, myself, Edge, Christian... Everybody who is around that age in their 50s, you want to go back home, air quotes. You want to go back to WWE, the place where, as a kid, Jericho, Christian, Edge, everybody in my era wanted to go to what we called New York. We wanted to go to WWF, WWE, and that was the pinnacle, and that's where we thought we were going to make our names. And most of us did, and most of us are remembered for our names in WWE. So why not finish there? Is there anything more to do in AEW for him? Is there something that he can do where it's not going to be rehashed or stale? Jericho is a master politician, and he's also a master at really being aware when things are going stale and how to stay relevant and fresh. Whether people think he's just trying to kind of milk off the young talent and not get them over or do whatever, he definitely can make an impact. My question is, with TKO taking over WWE and now Logan Paul and the Travis Scotts and the Jelly Rolls and whoever else is down the pipeline of celebrities, will Jericho have a harder time fitting in, or will Jericho more accurately get lost in the shuffle more in WWE than AEW? It's kind of a trick question at this point. Or are we going to see Jericho versus Logan Paul? Jericho versus Jelly Roll? Is Jericho going to be the celebrity versus wrestler type thing where he's the special attraction? I can see him doing that.
I find it interesting how Chris Jericho is probably the most hated person in AEW from the fans' perspective, because, when AEW became a thing in 2019, or, a weekly thing in 2019, he was the main name. He was the guy who legitimized that company to a point, more than the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes was nowhere near as big of a star then than he is now. He was the first champion. And then to go from that to, a few years later, and then he's the guy who's, known as either holding down talent or, he doesn't have it anymore. And, obviously, you're not going to be the same wrestler you were 20 years earlier. I get that. And he's 54 years old now. And you could also argue a couple of those groups, like the Inner Circle and the Jericho Appreciation Society didn't make any stars at all. But, I mean, for the most part, I always thought that Jericho was a huge boon to AEW. So I don't understand how he's all of a sudden become the most hated guy to that fan base.
Well, number one, familiarity breeds contempt. He's been there so long, and that's the weird part about wrestling. Sometimes you're always going to be more beloved, or you got to go away for a while to come back to be loved again. I believe in a weird way, somehow there was a transference after Cody left, because he was basically the most hated person in WWE or AEW for a bit. And after that, it seemed like they focused all that hate on Jericho. I mean, there was some here and there, but it really seems like AEW fans need that one scapegoat, that one person, not the gimmick with Jack Perry, but the one person that they need to blame for holding whatever underneath younger talent back. Do you know? Because eventually, you know what they're going to do? They're going to turn on the Hurt Syndicate because they're holding the young talent down.
Mm.
But they're already healed, so it's okay. Yeah. And Jericho actually tried to turn that negative into a positive, but it seemed like it turned into go away heat, didn't it? Like not the heat where you want to see him get beat up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, then it turned into, people chanting, just retire or please retire. I think, like during a match with Hook, people were chanting that. And then from there, it became the learning tree where he became like the overbearing, I was going to say almost Diamond Dallas Page, hi guys, like being overly enthusiastic kind of thing. Not in the same vein at all.
He was actually doing Tex Kwando from Napoleon Dynamite. Bow to your sensei. He was under the learning. I just trying to get the references in Napoleon Dynamite.
He's not been on TV since April, which is interesting.
Really?
It coincided his leaving AEW. He sort of disbanded the Learning Tree group, and he's not been on TV, I think, since April. Coincided with a Fozzy tour, but also it seems that he's lost an awful lot of weight recently, because the last couple of years Jericho was way too heavy, and all of a sudden he's lost a lot of weight, and I also thought maybe that's another thing to consider, that he might want to go back to WWE, wants to look his best, maybe a bit fatigued with AEW, didn't take care of himself as well, but now there's a new opportunity on the horizon, and you've got all this free time now. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, the other thing too is that you don't know. When I watched it, I saw Chris had gained weight and stuff, and it was a lot like in the midsection. So my automatic, and I know from experience, like right this second, when you have a lower back injury and your lower back is shot or flares up, your core weakens. You can't. They're directly with each other. So he can't train his core. He can't train his back. Maybe he can't train at all. Things happen. Look, I got the TENS unit on right now, just trying to sit down and get through the show. I understand that because there was something more to it than just saying he's lazy and he doesn't want to work out and he's getting fat. I assumed injury that he was trying to hide, and I was assuming lower back injury since it seemed like the core area. Because above that, he was pretty, obviously you're in your 50s, just like myself and Paul Levesque and Chris. It's harder to retain and gain muscle. And obviously traveling with wrestling, traveling with Fozzy, the schedule Jericho is under with both of those, it's going to wear you down. You combine all that, so maybe he just needed the time off, ability to train, home cooked meal. Maybe he got a chef. Maybe he got meal delivery services. Now he's able to be structured in a routine, and that weight is naturally coming off. And coupled with the fact that WWE is still a body company, a physique-driven company, an eye test company, sure, you want to look your best.
Do you see Jericho moving over, jumping back to WWE? Do you see it being just playing one company off the other so he gets a better deal?
He's going to get that. I think at this point for Jericho, he's made millions upon millions. Unless that offer is like another 10 years and you're paid and you get to be office, or you have an opportunity for more mainstream stuff. I don't know what it would take. What would be in that contract besides just money? But Jericho, Edge, Christian, a lot of Canadian wrestlers, Brett, they take pride and substance over the money. So I think Jericho at this point, and he's not gonna get 75 a year in WWE. So he's gonna get a big guarantee from TKO and also a limited amount of dates. And if he's promised a storyline, an angle, and a match with Logan Paul, with Jelly Roll, with whoever else is a celebrity, he has some cool stuff to do. And if he can end his career, maybe he ends his career wrestling Roman Reigns one last time, or Cody Rhodes for the title, or a retirement match there. I think Jericho, if the timing is right, Rumble, surprise return, leading to WrestleMania, and having a WrestleMania match that might be his last, or he might have one more year after that. I think Chris is going back to WWE without the offer you can't refuse. Anything short of that, I believe he's going back to WWE.
So, that being said, I think Kevin Owens would make the most sense for a final match, because then, it'd be like nearly 10 years since the Festival of Friendship, and that was more or less the last thing he did in WWE. So it'd be good to circle back to that, and that's presuming Kevin Owens can come back with his neck injury.
It would actually be pretty, if he's healthy, pretty awesome if Jericho inserts him, if they continue the Kevin Owens-Cody thing when Kevin comes back. And Jericho is kind of the person maybe instigating it and being the you-know-what star with that. That would be a good thing. But I still think Cody, he'd want to shoot for the stars. He'd want to go no less than somebody like a Brock, a Rock, a Cody, something like that.
So to end this show, and we've not actually done one in a couple of weeks. Usually do at least one a week, and for whatever reason, it's just sort of fallen by the wayside. So I think the last time was the SummerSlam show review, where it was a what went wrong / what went right. And I believe this goes under the banner of what went right. And this is Stevie reviewing Omos versus Microman in that sort of gauntlet battle royal kind of thing that they had at the AAA show this past weekend. So over to you, Stevie. What went right?
All right, James, thank you very much. This is definitely a what went right, and I have to give Omos credit. You can rush something like this and not enjoy the moment, nor let the crowd, nor the people watching at home enjoy the moment, because sometimes your internal clock is completely wrong. We've said it before. If you think you're going too slow, if you think you're reacting too slow, slow it down. So look at this shot right here. I love the camera work. I actually, by the way, the AAA presentation of this show, I think it had the right mix of saturation and grittiness. What do you think?
I think it was very really nice. I think the AAA show is really, really nice. They've got almost not in the same colours, but a Saturday night's main event kind of bright and bouncy quality to it. Yeah,
it's bright with some dark muted colors, and also look at this. Some of the crowd is blacked out. It's a darker. It's not brightly lit in the crowd. it was an amazing, even as Triple H, that's coming next show. Triple A, look, sorry, we did put Paul over during a previous segment. So this right here is awesome. So Microman approaches Omos and taps him. Now right here, Omos's reaction with the turn and just looking straight ahead's enough. But when he turns, first, I missed it. Dude, look at this. I don't know. I don't agree with this. The little kick back, because that sort of gives you the hint that there is a little person behind you. But it was kind of a good, like, you tap me on the leg, get off me. He could have thought it was one of these people lying down. But another tap here, turns around. So he's scanning here, 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 and here at eye level right here. It's just, you either get it or you don't get it. And Omos in this absolutely gets it. And secretly, even though he's serious, he's having fun with this. And I'm jealous because I wanted to be in this spot.
He's doing the John Travolta thing in Pulp Fiction.
Like with that, without the kind of like shrugging his shoulders type thing. That was great. We got to go back to that. Back and forth. He scanned this way and this way at least 2 times just to make everybody in the crowd see I'm looking around. They were reacting to this and having a good time. Where is he? Back to center and down. Oh, great work by the cameraman. The slow pan down to Microman. This is WWE's influence on AAA. AAA usually in the production would rush some stuff. I know somebody was saying, not yet, slow pan down. And he did it. That shot right there, that should be the thumbnail. That's awesome. So what's not going to be awesome and what went wrong, and you're already smiling, the next move when Omos gives him the boot, he almost steps on Microman and kills Microman. Oh, Microman, get out of there. Great spot. I got to do that again. Just because being here and having Microman, I think now that I look at it again, James, he thought somebody like Otis was behind him right here, like kind of trying to grab his leg to pull themselves up. But no, we got to see it again. He pats him even harder, scans again, looks down slowly, pan down slowly. Microman's like, what do I do? Now let's go for a shoulder block or something. And then, I bumped away. Like the critic, like John Lovitz, wrestling. Like you said, acting. Very good stuff. I give you, that's what went right. That's what the business is supposed to be about. Fun for the wrestlers, fun for the crowd, fun for the TV audience at home, and nobody almost gets hurt. It was almost what went wrong.
What do you think of the elimination? Because I think Omos takes real good care of Microman, even though he's probably 10 feet in the air.
He does. I mean, what can you do at that point? Definitely Omos. Now that Omos gets it, he's going to get released. He's a giant and now knows. And where this dude has been for, are we talking about minimum of 18 months this guy's been off TV?
Yeah, I would have said longer. I'm gonna give you the last time he actually had a match in a minute as well. But he's been 2023 probably last time. I'm just having a look. He's 7'3". I'm figuring he's basically the biggest wrestler currently working. The last time he was on Royal Rumble 2024, and then before then, house show after house show after house show, a Battle Royal SummerSlam 2023. So all this dude, all they trust him with on TV is Battle Royals.
And really, when you think about it, I'm going to bring it back up again here. Really, when you think about it, that's really what he is, a special attraction, right? So if you have Battle Royal specialty matches or whatever, he's the Andre the Giant. So why not? Here he is Now, this is interesting because usually the person would be face down this way. He's got Microman facing towards the ceiling. And what he's going to do, I think, is turn him like that and throw him to do a crossbody. So let's see. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, by the way, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, that's the way you catch Roman Reigns. Just a little bit of a note on the last episode or the last What Went Wrong. That was our SummerSlam. What went wrong?
Mm-hmm. The last time that Omos had a not battle royal match on WWE television, it was May of 2023 versus Seth Rollins.
Dude, I'm telling you, him and AJ as tag champs was money. It was really, really good. Remember that during the COVID era?
Mm-hmm.
They were really, I think WWE could have revisited a lot of good stuff from the COVID era, having crowds and rehashed that stuff after a bit.
Do you think WWE is just demanding too much of somebody that big? I mean, not everybody can be the Big Show, who was supremely talented for his size and could do an awful lot of things, but like the vast majority of people that large, they're always going to be, very, very limited. Are they just expecting too much from Omos?
Yeah, I think sometimes the WWE training system thinks a little bit too much about things and overthinks it. We know something about that here. But what I think they overthink is, okay, he's a big guy. He can do these things safely. Let's see if Omos can do an elbow off the top rope. Why? Even if Big Show did moonsaults in WCW, but did the moonsaults get Big Show over? No, just a choke slam. Now back then, but I'm talking about WWF, WWE. Now they didn't do, we talked a million times about Paul. They didn't do him any favors. He should have been a lot more over. And they did the same thing for Paul that they did for Omos. By the way, look at the, what's the guy's name with the Solo Sokoa bloodline, the 7-foot guy.
Oh, Tall Tonga, we call him.
Dude, that guy's already dead in the water. He's already getting bumped around. He's basically Ron Reese or Hammer. Think about it. They're not protecting that guy at all. There's something about WWE where they always protected the giants. Now they expose the giants for being giants in a negative way.
It's like, I always think that nowadays they expect the giants to work like the cruiserweights.
Exactly. Yes.
So therefore the cruiserweights aren't special. I mean, there's the occasional person like Vader who was different, who could do a moonsault and it was amazing. But he was an outlier. Or like even a Keith Lee. Because he was popular because he was doing all these flips and flies and everything when he was 300 plus pounds. But that should be like a special attraction as well. But I don't know. I don't know if it's in 2025. It's like you can't work if you can't do every single move on this list.
Yeah, you want me to give you another example for the inverse? The cruiserweights are working like giants. Sami Zayn should not be able to give Drew McIntyre a blue thunderbomb. Should not be able to pick him up to that point, or other people that are that size. We've talked about that before, where even Shelton, we had a heat match where I said, oh, you shouldn't bump for that. You're too big. And I'm not a small guy. I'm eye to eye with Shelton. I'm just saying, these are the things within the character you need to eliminate. And with Omos, I'm glad he has a spot, because seeing him in AAA, I'm like, hopefully they don't make him the next round of releases. They have a place for Omos to learn and shine and get some reps in. But when do you start telling Omos, oh, by the way, you have to take the curb stomp from Seth Rollins, or you have to take the buckle bomb, or my God, I mean, we're a hair's way away from that happening to Omos. Because like you said, you should be able to bump like a cruiserweight.
I don't think he's going anywhere because he actually won that gauntlet match. So I think they've got some big plans for him, at least in AAA, because he was in Noah earlier this year. They're not giving up on him. They're just not letting him on WWE TV. But
and they shouldn't give up on him, and they should keep him off TV, because that's the way to protect this guy.
That's true, but I mean, at some point you've got to get your money back. I mean, like what WWE were doing in the last year of him being on TV, or the last year and a half, they were only letting him on once every 6 months. You've got to get your return at some. I mean, I know the Andre the Giant theory, where, you know, back in the territory days, he would appear in one place maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, and then WWF at the time basically enacted their like exclusivity clause, and they kept him in the WWF the entire time if he didn't go to Japan or something, let's say, when they were working with them. But where's the sweet spot with Omos, and how do you feature him in the future? I mean, you can't just have him turn up once every 6 months. You'll never get your money back with him. But then you can't have him every week because you'll expose him too much. So where's the sweet spot? And the follow-up question is, do you actually think he's pretty decent for his size as a talent?
Well, I answer the second question first. Yes, yeah. He is really decent for his size. You put him in there, he can complete the task, not hurt anybody, and he stands out, literally, because of how tall he is. They already did the blueprint that worked. The Diesel blueprint worked because when he joined AJ Styles, he was the bodyguard. He was the insurance policy. Then, just like Shawn and Diesel, they tug up and became tag champs. Rehash that. Because you know what you do? I know AJ's on the final leg of his wrestling career. You can extend that, keep AJ's body safe, help AJ's body heal, and put him in a tag team with Omos and have them win the tag belts again. That's what I would do.
I mean, you say, you know, he's in the last phase of his career, but we thought that about Jericho, we thought that about Edge, we thought that about Rob Van Dam, and he's still doing well. You know, there's loads. The 50's the new 30 these days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying AJ won't have a career after WWE if he chooses to have one, but I think the WWE run or whatever might be, I mean, he's teased at the fact that was his last SummerSlam. Remember he said that? Mm-hmm. So it's not me saying that, but if you want to buy another year or two out of AJ, put him back together with Omos.
Right, I think we're going to leave it there. I think we might have actually had an episode under 2.5 hours. That must be the first time in ages that's happened.
I can go, aha, for 40 minutes.
Your 10's battery.
No, I can't actually.
I was going to say, your 10's battery won't last that long. So anyway...
my vocal cord battery won't last that long.
Mine's going as well at the moment. I don't know if it's... I don't know if I'm just like going by your lead. I'll do the not the quick outro, but everybody, thank you so much for watching. We are going to be back, I think, on Tuesday, because we are going to be reviewing... Now, I kept calling it All Out, and it isn't All Out. It's Forbidden Door. AEW Forbidden Door. Now, normally, we could have actually done it straight after the fact because it's on UK time for once, because I think they're in Wembley Arena or wherever they are, somewhere, or the O2, who knows. Anyway, it's on UK time, but I'm away until Monday morning, so we're going to record it on Monday, and then we're hopefully going to turn around the full episode and get it out for Tuesday. That is the plan so far, but don't fret, everybody, because we're also going to be back on Friday with WCW Part 3. Does that sound about right? Oh, you mute
I was
yourself.
muted. That sounds about right. I was just listening. Also, we may be reviewing Clash in Paris as well. I'm not so sure about that.
When's Clash in Paris?
August 31st.
Oh,
it's like a week or two.
God, there's so many of them.
Comment below. You convinced them last time. So yeah, we're gonna have to take a look at that. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode 60 of the Stevie Richards Show. Please remember to subscribe, like, and of course comment if you want us to review Clash in Paris as well. As James said in the beginning when we plugged cameo.com/Stevie Richards. Thank you so much for all the cameos. Appreciate it. Most recent one from Stuart and his daughter Emma. She loves, hey, what are you, smart ass? We didn't do that enough. We do the review shows so we can bring back the Korea rating. There you go.
Yeah, we can't do it out of 7 out of 10 out of 7 because no one gets the joke. So if you give something 5 Koreas, everyone thinks it's 5 out of 5. So maybe
let's just stick with the original 5-star rating.
Maybe we need to do like a hollowed out, like if it's 5 out of 7, we need to have like 2 hollowed out Koreas at the end.
We know if there's a finish with a sunset flip, it's infinite Koreas. It'll just go across the whole board. Hey, I told you it would work. All right. So besides that, Patreon.com/Stevie Richards. And what we try to do now is do watch-alongs that coincide or complement the episode topic. So there's more WCW watch-alongs. As a matter of fact, multiple match watch-alongs. Last week, a bonus one as well on a different day. And of course, this week we have anywhere from 3 to 4 watch-alongs in one compilation. So check out patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Also, most importantly, I put it in the universe every single week. James's List Mania channel coming very soon.
Yeah.
To there.
Chris told me that I think like 4 out of the 5 initial videos are ready, and there's going to be one more that has to be like revisited. I pinned him down on Monday and forced an answer out of him, but it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming very soon. Maybe this week. I don't know. Oh, no, because I'm away, so it won't be. Next week. Let's say it's next week.
All right, I'm waiting with bated breath as people have told me.
It's probably going to be terrible.
If I resonate, no, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to make sure of it. So my old channel may be resurrected as a historian smartboard type thing. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. James thinks it's a good idea, and to get him to give a compliment is saying something. My goodness. Stamp of approval. So thank you once again for watching episode 60 of the Stevie Richards Show. See you for the Forbidden Door review show, as well as next week for episode 61. But for now, and
You have to do a t-shirt of that now, man.